Welcome back to the Pommy and Oz channel, and today something a little bit different. If you're here for heavy edited videos, if you're here for entertainment and exciting content, probably this isn't it. This is probably something a bit serious. We've had a tough few days in the AFL, losing some great human beings, and I don't want to get into the speculation around these great men lost their lives, but I did want to talk and always find that when a chapter ends, it's always a good time to open a discussion point on something new. And I always think that death is probably the most definitive factor and chapter ender that you can have. Most books end on a death for a reason. And I see a lot of YouTubers, a lot of social media people, they champion every cause. And I've always prided myself that I try not to champion causes, because I find that when you champion a cause, you alienate people. But two young boys, myself, I find in 2025, a world where we're actively trying to make it so idyllic. The facts are that I don't think life has ever been as tough for a young man as it is in 2025. And I look at how society is, I look at how schools are, I look at how teaching is, I look at how the influences are, and it's tough out there for young men. So I wanted to do a video here where we do something about it. I think we are now beyond the point of where we can just copy and paste a lifeline beyond Blue Number, or say something cliche like checking on your mates and just go, oh, that's all right then, cool. Because I feel like when you look at 2025 as a whole, and if you said to me as a 13-year-old boy going back in the 90s, Dan, we're going to be connected to everyone, I would have instantly thought that life would be great. That meant I had more people to talk to, I had more people to rebound off, and a staggering 96% of this channel are men. A staggering 20% of that is in the 18 category. And 75% of deaths in Australia from suicide are male. 8.6 Australians die every year due to mental health. And a large percentage of them, believe it or not, are men who haven't even started their lives, below 21. And I wanted to take some time to talk about I don't think we have role models anymore. I don't think we have great male role models. And I think the great role models we have, they spend their time championing other causes that don't resonate with young men. I know one of my boys came to me, having watched a video a while ago on a different social cause, saying to me, are we the bad guy, Dad? About men. And that hit me hard, because I've never, ever in my life thought I'm a bad guy or my sex is a bad guy. And I feel like we're starting to become probably the silent observers. And is that because good men now just too scared to speak? Is it because they feel ostracized when they do? I know I probably wouldn't do this video at 30 or 20 because I'd be scared of what people thought and how people would twist and manipulate the words. And I don't. And I wanted to take this time here to say that it's so important when you look at masculine energy, that masculine energy is a fixing energy. Masculine energy is a problem-solving energy. And the first stage of problem-solving is a discussion. That is it. So when people have that feeling of, I shouldn't speak out, that's the most masculine thing you can do, because by design, you are nature's fixers. You are nature's problem solvers. That's the whole thing for me. I was raised by my pop to be a man. I found a problem, I would solve the problem. And I would do that for my community. I would do that for me. I would do that for others. And I know being a young man, and I know being an old man now at 40, it's fucking hard. Life's hard out there. It's hard. It's full of questions of where do I fit in. It's full of questions of where am I in the hierarchy. How am I going to survive tomorrow? How am I going to find the money to eat? How am I going to have all these people depend on me? There is a lot of reasons out there. Then you add in the social constraints. How much money am I earning? How's my school going? How's my education going? Do I look good? Do I feel good? And all these things are kind of warped, that when society is doing what it's doing. It's looking at everything else but you young men. And I feel you, because when I was 13, 14, all I wanted to do was be an adult because I wanted that voice. And now it feels like every man and his dog has got a voice, but this is the quietest voice. And, you know, suicide is something that affects, I would say, nearly every family. It's up there with cancer for me. When I was a kid, cancer and heart disease were them things that we were drummed into as kids, were the things that were going to unite us all, in the terms of that we've all experienced it, and it's something that we need to eradicate from society. I feel like suicide has replaced that. And me personally, I have had suicidal tendencies. I had an attempt on my life. I have had close friends and family submit to them tendencies. And it's probably the most, I would say the most trauma I felt as an adult male has been from depression, either from myself or from exterior being brought to me and needing help. And I think that's the most empowering thing, is when we actually talk about this. I think in this society at the moment, young men have either two role models, right? You either have Andrew Tate, who is militant masculine, speaking out on men with a very dark undertone, or you have very, very pro-left, and I hate using that phrase, but left, who are telling young men that they are the problem and everything in society is them. And it's hard to know where to turn. It's hard to know how to use your voice. Do I just champion these causes, which I feel like young men are always looking for a corner to fight in. And I feel like the corner to fight in has been a deflection of where we really are as a species, as a humanity. And I think when you look at these numbers, that these numbers have risen dramatically. We are seeing the biggest suicide spikes in society since the 30s. And what happened in the 30s? A big war happened after a massive Great War. And think of all the fear. And you think of where society is now. It's relatively safe in Australia. It's relatively safe in the majority of the Western civilization. And that's sad. And it's okay. I remember being a young man, and there was many times that I didn't want to wake up. I didn't want to carry on. And then as I became a young man, I got even worse. And I personally turned to drugs. And I was very lucky. And I look back at this as one of the stupidest moments of my life, because I remember being 16 on an illegal night out. We'd all snuck out, and I was sat across the way from one of my best mates, a guy that I grew up with. And deep inside my heart, I wanted to talk to him, you know, about the things I was feeling, about the anger I felt, about the trauma I was feeling. And as the words were coming out, I thought, don't ruin this Friday night, Dan. Don't ruin this Friday night. And I remember he looked me in the eyes and he said something, and he said, "Are you all right, mate?" And I was like, yeah, man, let's go to the next bar. And I brushed it off. I brushed it off. And then I snapped forward 5 years later, and this gentleman is checking me into rehab and making sure that I get my life back on track, because he genuinely cares. And I think that's so important, that life lesson there of change the way we speak to each other. Because when I was doing drugs, I was doing it because I was tired of feeling. I'm going to be totally honest. I was a coward in that avenue. I didn't want to feel what I felt. I wanted to be happy. I wanted to be bubbly. I wanted to forget. I wanted to just be happy Dan. And it felt like when I was using, everyone was around me, and it didn't matter. It didn't matter what I was feeling. That insecurity I was feeling, that hole in my heart was filled temporarily with fluff, and then that became addicting, that feeling. And before I knew it, what was helping the journey was merely stacking the boxes in the shelf, and eventually them shelves came tumbling down. And there's two periods of my life that are really poignant, and I hope this helps the young men watching out there. Number one was when I was in rehab. I was told that once you are clean, use this story to help others not get into the same book that you did. And I hope, and I know I have. I always had this pact. I'll save one person. And luckily through this YouTube channel, I've saved multiple people from that avenue of life, and I'm really glad that you can open up with me. And that's why YouTube exists. You know, I might be one of the few YouTubers who's honest. I don't do this for views. I don't do this for ad revenue. I don't do this for an ego massage. If I want an ego massage, I'll go into the living room and speak to my children or speak to my wife. That's how I do it. I do this purely for my mental health. It's great to put this camera on and just talk about something that I really enjoy, which is football, and share it with someone else. Just share it with someone else, whether that's one viewer or 1,000, which it's become. That has always been the aim, and that has really helped me. And the other story my pop told me, and I recently reheard this, so it must be an old golf anecdote, but I heard another golf pro talk about it. But I remember just going into junior club championships. I was 15 years old, and my pop told me that I played golf like a young man. And he was like, you just think about the next shot. You just think about the next shot. You don't think about the end product. And he told me that to get past 70 was the golf course I grew up on. He was like, you aim to try and get, ideally, 18 shots around 18 holes. So he was like, to get 70 and be considered a scratch golfer, the top 10% of the world, he was like, you are going to miss a staggering 52 times to succeed 18 times. He was like, if you break that down and you only miss 48 times, and you do that over 4 days, you potentially win every major that's ever been there. So he was like, that is a lesson for you in life, son. You are going to fail 3 times, 4 times as much as you succeed. However, it's how the story ends will define if that was a success. Not the individual failures, but them little wins that you had in a plethora of failures, that ultimately the result will define what you are. And I think that's so important for young men to hear. You are going to make mistakes, and you know what? It is incredibly healthy to make a mistake, because when you make mistakes at my age, at 40, there is so much more risk associated with it. You've got family, you've got dependents, you've got mortgages, you've got loans. When you're 16, 15, is the time to make your screw-ups and then learn from them. And I think my message from this is, you know, change the way you ask your mates, are they all right? You all know. You all know, but also allow yourself to be vulnerable. Allow yourself to start the conversation of, you know what, I'm struggling to make ends meet at the minute. I'm really worried about paying rent, and I'm drinking too much, or I'm going out too much because I just need to feel something good. Have these conversations with each other, because social media has changed the narrative of how we are as a human race. We are now so quick to condemn. We are so quick to condemn other people because it makes us feel better. We're so, instead of trying to have an intelligent voice, we try and downplay other people. And the society wants everyone to have a voice, so we should be empowering these voices, filling our feeds with how we feel, but more importantly, the lesson and the message that we can get. And I've succumbed to it. I'm far from perfect. I am one of the most flawed human beings I've ever met, and I'm my own best mate. But I can be quite honest with myself that I am incredibly flawed as a man. Incredibly flawed. I am headstrong at times. Sometimes I have my head up my arse with decisions. Sometimes I get angry over nothing. Sometimes I feel frustration. Sometimes I get jealous. I feel envy. Sometimes I just want to scream. And then there's other times, you know, where you just have these moments where you're overwhelmed by an emotion that you don't fully understand. And that's something that, you know, as I've got older as a 40-year-old man, that's totally normal. It's totally healthy. It's how them emotions impact your day-to-day. It's not about repressing them. It's about understanding them. And if I am angry or frustrated, it's about taking a step back and going, what am I frustrated about? Okay, cool. Let's try and put some building blocks in place so that doesn't become a frustration. And that's why this content has changed. I'm going to be totally honest. This is a mental health change for me. I was frustrated how I felt like I was just becoming like everyone else, and I was being pigeonholed into being what other people wanted me to be as opposed to being who I am. And that's powerful when you reach that. So I'm going to go away and think about how we can create something to go back to how it used to be for young men. And that's having an avenue to express ourselves in a safe space, because social media is so dangerous. The amount of times I see people release screenshots or things like that where people have been vulnerable, as opposed to thinking, you know what, maybe that person's got something going on in their lives. It's become a medium to make me feel better about myself because I'm defaming someone else. So if that's maybe like a catch-up walk and coffee, because I know that no one's going to champion these causes, and I think we're beyond championing the cause. This is getting to a rotten place, and I think when we look at the 3 recent deaths that we've had recently, I think it's been a tough couple of days. We've lost Adam Hunter, we've lost Dale Tappin, and we've lost Troy Selwood. And we can only, I don't want to speculate why these young men have lost their lives, especially in the Selwood and the Hunter case, which have had that beyond blue. We know Tappin had a brave, courageous fight against cancer, but let's try and turn that into something positive for future generations, where we can change the narrative from just thinking I drop a post and I walk away. Let's try and get proactive and go back to how it was when I was a kid, where growing up in a small community, a very poor community, the leaders were people that I could learn off, who were flawed human beings. And it feels like we're so accepting now of everything else but a young flawed male that has gone good. So what I'd like everyone to do from this video is, one, let me know how you're going. And I want you to know that sometimes it might take me a while. I do reply to every message that I ever get, but it does take a while sometimes to get back because I do get inundated at times. But if you do need someone to talk to, I can help point you in the right direction, even if it's just a vent or something that you feel, because it's totally normal to be overcome with emotion. I feel like we're trying to make men emotionless, but I want you to fill the feeds of just a male figure, and I'm not trying to ostracize or downplay of her, but a male figure that's influenced you and has a positive reaction on you in your life. And let's try and fill the feeds with positive masculinity and try and break that stereotype. I want to take this moment, though, to wish and send my love and affections to Dale Tappin, to Selwood and Hunter's family and extended friends and family. Huge loss in life, and death is hopefully never final for us, and hopefully one day we'll meet again soon. But when I've lost people in my life who have passed on, as time goes on it gets better, but it's always nice to remember the things that they left us and not the fact that they left us. Peace, love and light to everyone. I hope this helps, and if you want to share some journeys, we can do this if this was some help. I'm out.
Spent all my life holding all of it closely. I played it innocent, a feel of discontent. I'm finally facing it all, fearless.